So we're looking at how to create a viewport, know what can fit, what our scale is, what rotation or angle you could say that we're going to want to fit this in. And so we see here this is a unique little shape of a property, and we want to be able to fit this into a viewport. So first we want to actually go to our viewport. And so I'm going to come to our demo sheet. We have no viewport here at all. I'm going to actually show you in a minute how to create a polygonal shape. We're so used to maybe just doing a rectangular window, but we're not limited to that. And that's another benefit of a little bit of the manual process. The minute I go to a layout tab, and this of course is already brought in, the title block's already there, we just need to create that viewport, but the ribbon's already set up. It automatically switched to a layout tools ribbon, and so I can come up here and say that I want to create a rectangular viewport. So rectangular, and because it's rectangular, it's just looking for the opposite corners. So I'm going to pick these circles. I added these circles already, just kind of understanding the size that I want to fit this in, and go to the center of this circle. So that viewport's added in. If you notice, it is added on whatever the current layer is. So you're going to have to either change that layer before or after. So I'm just going to change this layer now manually. Come on down here and set it to whatever layer it is. I just put it on no plot layer, but I do believe I actually even have a view layer in here. Yep, a viewport layer. So a non-plottable layer, that's the key here. And it scaled to fit extents. So it fit that entire view in there, but I want to be able to rotate this a little bit. And again, this is where some Lisp routines or other things may come in handy. But the Lisp routines or all of these different tools, the chances are they're going to use what's called D-view twist. What we're going to do is we're leaving the world or the Earth as it is, and we're just kind of changing how we look at it. We're rotating our plane above it. So the command dview, this is one I'm so used to typing in, so I'm just going to type in dv for dview. It asks us select objects or use dview block. We're always going to use dview block for this exercise. And then it asks, what tools do you want? We're going to twist. That's the option we're choosing. And again, this is where Lisp routines or other things can help us establish those values. But no matter what those values are, I like a nice round number. It's easier for me to remember. It's easier to work with. And so I'm going to type in, let's say 35 degrees. Press enter. And you see that it's rotated that view, but that's pretty close to almost lining up with this highway here. And I can fit this information in there, and it looks like it fits pretty well. But you also notice my cursor is rotated because my UCS is still my UCS. It's all good. I haven't changed those coordinates. I've just changed how I've looked at it. So the next step really is to set that scale. So I'm going to come down here and I'm changing not just my viewport scale, but when I come down here, I'm actually setting my annotation scale. So I'm going to choose 1 to 30. I already know that it has to be 1 to 30 to fit. And then I'm just going to make sure I pan. Be very careful with the wheel when you pan. It's so easy for the wheel to just kind of slip, and then you've changed the scale, zooming in and out. So I get that placed just the way I want. And then I'm going to just double click out here and select this viewport and make sure I'm locked. Everything's good. It's all locked. I'll even go usually a step further. It's not required, but I'll change my UCS. So I'm going to type in UCS here. Again, you can come to your view ribbon and choose UCS, but I'm so command line driven, so I apologize. But I'm going to type in UCS here, and one of the options is to use the current view. So I'm going to do that, use view. you see my UCS is now set to the view, and my cursor, my crosshairs has adjusted to match, and I can draw. Now what this does is it helps the dimensions and the leaders. Now if I come up to multi-leaders here and add a multi-leader, that leg, and even if there's blocks, are rotated to my view. You remember that the actual north is more in this direction. You can kind of see the arrow already pointing. It's more in this direction, but because I set the UCS for this view, I'm able to use these tools and have the landings and everything line up nicely. So I like doing that, and another reason why I like working through my viewport for annotating and the like. Now that you know your twist, you could come back to model space, but again, I'm not going to be working in model space. This is just too busy for my normal working. I'm going to come here and I'm going to freeze using layer freeze, and the setting for layer freeze by default in Autodesk Civil 3D or AutoCAD is to do viewport freeze. So when you're working through a viewport, it's viewport freeze. So I can freeze some of these things. This is a demo sheet, so I can freeze some of the proposed items and be able to see this work a little bit better. So you can go through and do all of this. We don't need the proposed contours and the like. So you can set this up so you can see a little bit better what you're working with. Once you get one view set up, usually what I'll do is if I'm not working with a template, I'll just right click and copy that layout tab and that viewport and that view and that title block and everything, and I'll just keep creating my new layout tabs that way. I have everything set up. If you're working from a template, then you already have your layout tabs set up. It's just getting that view to match in every sheet. So to do that, again, we'll come back to our view ribbon, and we're going to create a new view. And it's going to open up and ask you, what do you want to name this view? I'm just going to name it 30 scale. You can name it 30 scale standard, something like that. And we just kind of want to walk through some of these other things. What is the boundary? Display is fine. Do you want to save layer snapshot? No, I actually want a different layer control per viewport. And it's not that they're synced, but we would be changing all of those template settings that we had for those viewports. So I'm going to uncheck that. Do you want to have the UCS stay with the view? And we can choose no, don't save the UCS. Do it, but it's with the world, or in this case, we're just going to stick with whatever the view is. And so you can have all of these different things. Go ahead and click OK. We didn't make any changes here, but now we're set up to go to each sheet, and we can come to View Manager here, Model Views, and Set Current. Now this viewport's already unlocked, so it was ready and set it up. You notice that because we saved the UCS, the unnamed UCS, it already set that. And now it's just a matter of locking this viewport, which I can do from down here as well. And repeating the process. The layers are already set up in each one of these because it was my template. So I just needed to get one sheet looking the way I wanted to, and then I can just apply that same look to each one of these other sheets. And there's other ways to do this, but this is just giving you an opportunity to see all the steps involved and then locking the sheet. So a lot of control here. I did talk a little bit about polygonal viewports, so let's just take a look a little bit more at that. I'm just going to come out to paper space here, and I'm just going to come to the home ribbon and draw a polyline. Good old polyline. Turn off my object snaps. And we're going to follow this property line really closely here. And I'll go ahead and close that polyline. It does have to be a closed polyline. But now I can select this viewport and I can clip it. It's in the layout tools. There's a few other tools as well, but notice that with this, I can choose to clip. Layout tools, clip, viewport. And so down below it says select the clipping object. That's the polygon. And now that viewport is clipped to that. It gives you a nice way to kind of work around a few objects that you don't want to see, be able to kind of clean up your view. A lot of times you're working around objects that may be in paper space, maybe like your scale and north arrow, and you can kind of just work around that. So a lot of different controls, or you could create one right from scratch in those layout tools. Where we did rectangular, we can choose polygonal, where we draw that polygon while we're creating the viewport, or again select an existing polyline that's closed. So that gives you a lot of different options to kind of do the manual process of what you may have some automated tools to accomplish in other setups like Mex, Viewport Shadow, or the like.